All right, today we're going to be looking at the idea of verifying information from the user because we want to make sure we don't crash our system unnecessarily. As you can see right here in our J panel, we have an age field. And if we were to simply let this accept text to go in there, someone could type in a string value and a string value that would not be able to be converted to an int, which would cause their application to therefore crash. And no one wants their app to crash. We want our app to keep running. So what we have to do is we have to find a way to actually verify that this integer, or this string, can be converted to an integer properly before we actually take that input from the user and add it to our fields, etc. For example, a database, or adding fields to an array list or an object or something like that. And to do that, we need to create a little method that can check user input to make sure that it fits within a format we want to see, and then from that format that we then are able to import that format into our correct fields. So, looking over our code, we're going to go back to the actual source here really fast, and we scroll down in our method. As you can see right here on the Insert into Table button, we have a if test where we check parse integer method is called, passing it the text on that field. That check parse integer method is how we're going to check that. It will return a true or false whether that integer, or that string, can be parsed to an integer value. If it can, we use it. If it cannot be used, notice that there is no else, and we do not use that information. So let's look at that check parse integer method directly. It's a private method because it's only going to be seen here inside this view. It has a Boolean variable, is parsable, and we set it by default to false. We assume that it's wrong. Unfortunately, users can't be assumed to be right, so we will assume that their input is wrong first. We then try something, again using the try-catch structure, where we will try to see if this can happen. We're going to try to see if we can do integer.parseInt current. So it'll take that string current right here and see if it can be parsed as an integer. If that can be parsed, we'll change that isParsable variable to be true. If it cannot be parsed, it will fail this code, causing an exception to be thrown, a number format exception. We will then catch that exception and then have a message pop up stating that you could not use that as an integer and try again. It then returns the isParsable value, either true or false. True if it could be converted to an integer, false if it cannot. And again, we go back, and if it can be converted, right here, check parse integer, we then simply do integer.parseInt and pass it that field as the input for the set age. The reason we have to do this is we have to have our code be robust. We want our code not to crash just because the user makes a mistake. Everyone has seen when you're going through your fields on the website and you type things in incorrectly, and it gives you that error message. This is the idea of checking for that error before it crashes your system. Instead of crashing your system, we will make it so that we can simply catch that error, move on, and keep our program running. Again, because the text field in Java only returns a text value, we check that value by doing a parseInt, but we put it in a method with a try-catch around it so we can check to see if it will work, catching any errors that would happen if it doesn't. And if it does pass properly, it returns a true value, and we then simply parse that int as needed. The same would work with a other parsing of a string, such as example for a double value. Instead of how we're doing an integer.parseInt, we'd simply call double.parseDouble.